Hugh Freeze has 4 Auburn Tigers at the NFL Combine this week. But how will they do and when will they get drafted? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for giving us a listen today. Joining me, as he does always from the barn, is my good friend Kyle Rush, Auburn sports analyst. It's Combine time, and the Auburn Tigers have 4 guys at the Combine right now. Wide receiver Keandre Lambert-Smith, running back Jarquez Hunter, edge Jalen McLeod, and linebacker Eugene Asante. Let's start with the guy we all know somewhat carried Auburn last year, Jarquez Hunter. Now, they've been raving about him since the Senior Bowl. They talked about his speed, his agility. He continues to impress scouts in interviews. Talk to me about Jarquez Hunter. I feel like in a year where Auburn would have done better on the field, he would have had a chance to be a late first-round pick. Now, I think he's lucky if he gets chosen in the 3rd round because of the way that they value running backs. But Jarquez Hunter should be the first guy off the board.
Hey, man, he's got plenty of miles left. Plenty of miles left on him.
For damn sure.
I love what I've been hearing from scouts talking about him, and it's mostly, like you said, leadership, and then the different tools that he's shown, especially at the Senior Bowl, a willingness to get in there and pass block. I mean, that's a big deal in the NFL. Not just, hey, turn around and hand the ball off and go. He does a little bit of it all, and he humble enough to do the dirty work. So I think that's going to help him. To me, if he could do anything to help his stock a little bit, if he can increase catching passes a little bit better out of the backfield, I think he's got all the tools to be a really good NFL back.
Yeah, I do too. And look, man, Jarquez Hunter is a guy that has done so well over the years. When he came to Auburn, I said that he would leave top 3 in rushing. And everyone called me crazy. I think he finished 4th in Auburn history in rushing.
I think 4th, yeah.
Yeah, and in better times with better coaches, if Gus stays, or I don't know if he's here, if Gus stays, because technically he was a Brian Harsin recruit. But if Harsin does better for Auburn, and they're not a mess that first year under Hugh Freeze, I think Jarquez Hunter would have had a chance to be a top 2 back in Auburn history. He had so many intangibles, and he played through a lot, and he gave Auburn everything he had. 6.3 yards per carry in his career at Auburn. That is extremely good.
That's great. I knew when I saw him drop step and dunk in cowboy boots in high school that he was going to be special. And hey, if you could put a value on hurdling kids,
yeah, the Hunter hurdle,
he'd be up at the top. I think he hurdled one every single year he was here, at least one. That kind of became his thing. He just does all the right things. He's built good he has a really good build for the NFL. It's a lot of those shorter, stocky guys, and he's got this. I can't wait to see what he runs in the 40. I think that'll really tell to me where he goes, and I think he'll probably be around a 4.4, 4.5 guy. I think that he could easily be that.
Yeah. I think when you look at what he was able to do on the field, Jarquez Hunter is a really underrated pass catcher. I felt like they didn't utilize him enough in the pass game. Obviously, Auburn had a lot of issues passing the ball, so Jarquez Hunter wasn't going to get a ton of opportunities there, or as many as I would have liked him to have. But more notably, when you look, 25 rushing touchdowns, which is another number I felt like could have been much higher.
Sure.
In better times. Now, you and I both know when your team is doing well, you get more of a look, right? Like players on winning teams get higher draft stock. And what's going to happen in this draft, I think, Kyle, you can give your opinion on this, is some team's going to get a hell of a running back at an extreme discount in this draft in Jarquez Hunter.
I think so. I couldn't agree anymore. I think somebody's going to get a steal in him. I think he probably, like you said, had the offense done a little bit better, he could have gotten some more touches, which could have, led to more yards, maybe more touchdowns. But when you're getting, 3 and outs and, throwing it a little bit more than you're running it, that just kind of doesn't lend itself to that much success. But hey, He was still the SEC's second leading rusher. He was second in rushing attempts, which is kind of crazy. He's got some good. I think he's got some really good stats. He's got a really good resume to sell, and I think I think he could be one of the top running backs picked, chosen, at least maybe top 10, top 5 running back, somewhere in that neighborhood of running backs picked. And I think, like you said, he's going to make somebody very happy.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, a lot of players skip the combine because they don't want to hurt their dress out, or they'll go with their pro day over the combine. I could see Jarquez Hunter possibly doing both. He's an Auburn man. I know he's not going to miss an opportunity to come back to the Plains and put on a show for the fans. But before we move on to the next player, I do want to say, once he gets into workouts, now you saw him dunking cowboy boots, but he also squatted 600 pounds in cowboy boots. And sources tell me he got pretty close to 700 pound squat in his time at Auburn. I think that once they see him work out, because like I know, at the NFL level, it's a job. And they want to see guys punch the clock in that weight room every single day, preparing their bodies for the grind of an NFL schedule. I think Jarquez Hunter is a guy that's really, really going to impress people with his work ethic.
I got nothing else to add to that. I could not agree any more.
Oh, the next guy on the list is Keandre Lambert-Smith, sticking with offense, the transfer from Penn State. He came up just short of being Auburn's first 1,000-yard receiver since
close.
Ronnie Daniels, 1999. He played in 12 games, 981 receiving yards, 50 receptions, 19.6 yards per catch, 8 receiving touchdowns. He was an absolute monster for Auburn this year. Again, opportunities were limited due to issues on offense. You and I both know. But Keandre Lambert-Smith, I think, has the build to be an NFL receiver. I think if he works on his speed and his route running skills, not that they were bad, he's a great route runner, but if he improves those things, he can be a guy that also excels at the next level, and maybe a third rounder for Keandre as well.
That'd be massive. Look, I was very shocked. To me, I was very surprised pleasantly at how fast he actually was. I mean, he has game breaking speed.
He does.
He could take a short pass and take it to the house. And another thing that I think that's huge for him is that he kind of got a bad rep when he left Penn State. Penn State people kind of trashed him.
They trashed him.
As far as him,
nothing but a model teammate.
Him being a cancer. I've heard that. Him being toxic, stuff like that. And then he comes to Auburn, and you see all these young wide receivers that are talking about how they look up to him, how he's helping them. I think that piece of it really helped him as far as, hey, this guy's a professional. This is, wide receivers get bad reps as like divas and stuff like that. Solo lone guys. I'm kind of here for myself. He showed he was obviously going to get his production, but he was here to help too. And he said that, and he did it. He wasn't just words, he was actions too. I think NFL GMs are going to love this guy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Keandre Lambert-Smith was a staple. I mean, teams couldn't double Cam Coleman. You couldn't double Cam Coleman because Keandre Lambert-Smith was on the field giving people problems. Peyton Thorne had no issues finding Keandre. I think in a better year, he has probably closer to 80 receptions, and he's the best receiver in the conference. So
I just hope my biggest thing is I just hope we don't forget him. I hope Auburn fans don't forget him, because that was him. What you forget about Ronnie Daniels because that team wasn't very good, and this team obviously wasn't very good, but they did incredible things, and what he did was spectacular, and I think it's going to pay huge dividends for Auburn moving forward, and I hope he gets rewarded for it at the next level.
Absolutely. Look, after the break, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the ball, but this episode of the War Report is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever has got you down, the Rogue Shop has something to get you up. Visit rogueshop.com again, use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Also, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. I have the Kamado grill. I bought it for my dad this spring, Kyle. He loves grilling on it. It's his favorite thing now. B-Will has the fire pit. We filmed a lot of great firesides with athletes around the fire pit last year. We're going to be doing more of that this year. So goldenscastiron.com/WR, so they know the War Report sent you. Let's jump back in here on the defensive side of the ball. Eugene Asante is at the combine, and he recently just turned in a 4.440. What was it? Was that number again?
4.48.
4.48. Eugene Asante.
At 233 pounds. That is
my goodness.
Blazing.
Mr. Let's Work himself. 29 games at Auburn, 134 tackles, 14 tackles for a loss, 7.5 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries. Eugene Asante was the heartbeat of the Auburn defense in his 29 games there. Brought the energy week in and week out. I think he's a guy that is going to impress a lot of scouts with his attitude and his knowledge and his intelligence and his love and passion for the game.
Oh, for sure. Look, you got guys like Jihad Campbell, Smile Mondin, Danny Stutzman, all these guys, these franchise names that you hear at linebacker. Eugene dusted them all. He's number two in the 40 so far in linebackers. The number 1 10-yard split for linebackers. Like it turned a ton of heads. He probably doesn't have the height that they'd like. I think he was 5'11", measured in like 5'11", but they said, hey, if you're going to be shorter in stature, you got to be able to move. I listened to it on the broadcast. You got to be able to move, and that's exactly what he did. I think I was skeptical about his speed at the next level. I'm not going to lie. I had no idea he had that in him. That made him some money. He was a flashy playmaker, and now you can put speed in the books next to his name. That's big, man. I'm telling you, that's big.
Speed kills, and the NFL loves speed. They feel like speed is something that's hard to teach. If you have it, they can work with you. You just got to take better angles to the football on tackles at the next level, and be a more sure tackler. But he is a guy who can he had a nose for the football. He can find his way to the football. He's just got to get there and make plays more consistently. And I think in today's NFL, he'll have some time to develop. Not a guy you may need right away, but once you get him in camp, he's another guy that works out extremely hard, and I think will impress with his work ethic.
Yeah, he would have been hell on old school kickoffs. Old school kickoff team. He'd have killed some folks, but now they do that stupid kickoff. That stupid kickoff totally negates his speed.
Last guy we're going to talk about before we close this segment, edge Jalen McLeod. In his Auburn career, 24 games, 105 tackles, 25 tackles for a loss, 13.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Jalen McLeod was a guy I thought had a chance to lead Auburn in sacks last year. He made plays in DJ Durkin's defense, and I think that as time goes by, Kyle, we're going to see more and more edges get drafted out of DJ Durkin's system as he continues to develop at Auburn. Jalen McLeod was a guy who benefited, I think, greatly from the schemes that DJ Durkin implemented. But where do you see Jalen in the draft here? This was a hard one for me to place.
I'm curious as to why he didn't run a 40. He was listed as an edge. I'm wondering why he did not run a 40. Maybe he hasn't gone yet, but it looked like all the linebackers and edges and defensive linemen ran today, and he didn't. I thought that would have been an event he would have really wanted to take advantage of, because I felt like he has that kind of speed. And maybe he runs tomorrow or something like that. I don't know if they're doing it they may be doing it in stages. But I think that you saw a guy go from small competition, and he was really good even at that small competition when they would play bigger teams. You see his highlight film against Texas A&M when he was at App State, where he's one-handed picking up left tackles and carrying them into the quarterback's lap. And he came to Auburn, a little dinged up his first year, but then became a freaky playmaker his senior year. And that guy, those 4 dudes you just named, those are all going to be – I feel like those are all very, very draftable guys that can be great NFL players. Now, McLeod will have to have the right system, I feel like, because he's kind of a in-between a little bit maybe. Not quite big enough for the complete like that edge, but not maybe too big to play middle linebacker. So it's going to have to be the right system. But I think he could be a very Bruce Irvin type player at the next level. I'm excited to see what he does.
They'll figure out what they want you to be if the raw talent is there. So whether they want you to put on weight or lose weight and get faster, get stronger, if you're committed to the nutrition and the weight regimen, you can be what they want. And I think that Jalen McLeod has a good physical base to be whatever they want him to be. He's just got to get with a franchise that has a good vision for how he can play at the next level, and he's got to be open to making those changes physically. But certainly, I'm with you. Auburn has 4 guys on the board that really we should have their name called on Sundays. Before we get out of here, I want to ask a simple question: is this a successful draft class for Hugh Freeze? Remember a few years ago, a lot of people famously assigned what was technically Gus's players, like a weak draft class, to Brian Harsin. I didn't think it was fair necessarily to say, oh, why doesn't Harsin have, like, he hasn't coached a game at Auburn yet, and you're assigning, the draft results to him. But this is, Hugh Freeze has been here a couple of years now, and these are his guys, right? Yeah. Like, listen, he didn't recruit Jarquez Hunter, but he coached him enough that this is his guy. And I feel like this should be a check mark on Hugh Freeze's board. If Jarquez Hunter makes it to the next level and is successful, I think he can claim Keandre Lambert-Smith, even though he only played a year here, and certainly Eugene Asante and Jalen McLeod. But, would you call this a successful 4? It doesn't wow anybody, but, is this a good thing for Hugh Freeze?
For sure, because like you said, there are guys that he brought in other than Jarquez Hunter, but Jarquez Hunter had his best production under Hugh Freeze. Now, obviously, he was sharing some time with other running backs earlier, but I think it's got to be a success. I think the numbers will grow next year. You got Keldrick Falk on the table, you got Connor Liu possibly. Like you got some of that first high school recruiting class starting to scoot in, and then obviously these portal guys that you're bringing in. I would say it's a big success because I think all 4 are going to get drafted.
Yeah,
and I think that they're all going to end up being pretty good NFL players too, as well. So, if you're looking for victories, I would say this would be one that you could we got to see how the draft turns out, but I would say this is one you could probably getting them to the combine's a good sign for Hugh.
Yeah, I think if you're building a program, it's good to be able to point to the guys that you put in the NFL. We know that Hugh Freeze used that in recruiting when he got to Auburn, talking about the DJ Metcalfs and, the A.J. Browns, and even having those guys FaceTime with recruits to say, this is a guy that you want to play for. Certainly you want Jarquez Hunter and Keandre Lambert-Smith and Jalen McLeod and Eugene Asante making those calls for you in a year saying, look at me, I'm in the NFL. Hugh Freeze helped get me there. So definitely a good thing for Auburn to have guys on NFL rosters. Kyle Rush from the Barn. Before we get out of here, man, today I want to thank you for joining me. Tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. You can go to thebarnauburn.com, take $25 off of your annual membership for the whole year of 2025. So jump in the conversation, get the recruiting scoops, team scoops, basketball scoops, whatever it is. And then obviously the community as well, which is a lot of fun. So jump in there and have some fun. And then obviously wherever you get a podcast, you can find me, Top Button Podcast.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report with my guy, Kyle Rush. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform, TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.